All right, welcome back to the We Attitude podcast. I'm excited today to have our guest, who's a awesome human being, kind of a legend in St. Louis hockey world. Rhea had the opportunity to play for the Blues for a number of years. Rhea Lowe is with me today. Rhea and I, Rhea doesn't remember that because he was in the climb to his journey to the NHL, but we play against each other in the minors, and I just remember how massive of a human he was then. I just hope he's not on the ice. So, Rita, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and then we'll just kind of dive into it.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on. It's funny because when I first got back, I don't remember a lot of things, and I didn't even really know that you had played in the minor leagues in pro hockey, and so, but hopefully that was still nice. But then once I did find out, and obviously it didn't take me very long to listen to his French-Canadian accent, one of the few French-Canadians I like.
You told me that was your favorite one.
My favorite one is going to hang on to that. If my boy Jesse Canton's listening, who's my boss and Richard Brothers, you might have to fight him for that.
All right.
Both of you two are right up there. But no, it's been fun getting to know you and becoming good friends. So thanks for having me on. For lack of anything else, Breedlow. Born and raised in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. If Soupy Campbell was here, he'd say, "Where's Moose Jaw, Losey?" And I'd say, 6 feet from Moose's ass. Everyone will laugh. Funny story about that too. I'll get into that later if we get a chance. But actually, I'll just do it now. First training camp ever. Just signed an NHL ticket. 3 years, two-way. Nice signing bonus. I'm at training camp. I'm on the elevator and going down, and Joel Quinville and 3 scouts get on the elevator. And Joe, one of the guys, like, you're from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, right, Losey? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, where is that? And dude, the words came out of my mouth, and I was like, oh, come back in here. I'm like, I just birthday camp. I'm already cheering with the scouts. What are you doing? You know? And so, anyways, Joe Quinville's dying laughing, and they all laughed and had some fun with it. So, but yeah, I grew up with nothing else but just NHL. Didn't graduate high school until I was 40 years old. Did not care about it at all. I had one mission, and that was to make the NHL. And when I would say, I'm not sure I ran out of skill, but I certainly ran out of speed. When I was about 17 years old, I was like, what else can I do here? And got in a couple fights in Minot, North Dakota, and then just kind of went from there. And was lucky enough to get drafted by the Blues, and then play here. And then what's better than all of them is the community and how they just surround their professional athletes, and kind of like once you give them the blood, sweat, and tears, they just give it back for the rest of your life. And so we're so blessed and so privileged to be here, be a part of this community. And then, I'm fortunate enough to work in the charity Severe as a event auctioneer. And even into some consulting, like I've just done so many of them. There's a lot of people that want to know what I like, what I see and what doesn't work. So, short little story there on the journey. There's a ton of rabbit holes on the way. Almost quit, did everything. So
yeah, so let's kind of unpack some of this, right? Because I want to go back to when you said when you ran out of speed, right? So like the world now moves at such a fast pace that you don't get to plan everything, or everything you plan doesn't necessarily pan out the way you want it, right?
Yeah.
And the ability to pivot and find a different path or adopt a different ways or whatever is somewhat of a gift. Because some people will resist it. No, I'll do it my way. I'm going to stick to this. This is what I've been doing. And I mean, you would have had the same outcome have you stuck.
I've been working at the railway back in Moose Jaw.
And you arguably went the hardest path.
Yeah.
I mean, like that the living, especially back in those days,
some big days of that.
Yes, and the living you made and the path you chose. Besides courage, it takes it just takes a ton of guts to do it. So at what point you're like, or how often should I say, like, right? Because I've seen guys like drop the gloves. I mean, it happened to me, not as often, but you're like, what is happening? You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's clapping, but you're like, that hurt.
Yeah.
You know, like that's going to leave a mark. And like, so at what point in your journey when you made the pivot and you said, all right, this is going to be my path. If I'm going to make it, this is the one thing I have to really get good at. Any times where you start second guessing yourself and
Every single game.
yeah,
Like, oh my God, who is it this time? You know, it really, I've got to give all the credit to my former coach. He's now a scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jim Rock. He coached some collegiate, some NCAA Division One, and I came to training camp. I was a senior in high school back in Moose Jaw, and I was planning on coming down and having a good training camp in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, the SJHL Tier 2 level. They'd listed me that summer, and like I said, I packed a duffel bag. My sister, my buddy that was also listed with them, mom and dad drove 4 hours down to Mina, North Dakota, and I had a good training camp. I made the inter-squad game. A coach put the two tough guys on the other side and told them to go after me, see what I had, and I fought them both and had really good fights. And I ended up scoring 4 goals in that inter-squad game too. And so I'm not even knowing what I'm thinking. I have been cut from every team I've ever played for. I signed an NHL contract when I was 21 years old, and I'd played 3 years of Tier 1 hockey my entire life. 2 in the Western Hockey League, and then AA Pee Wee.
Yeah.
When I was a second year Pee Wee, that's it. That's the only Tier 1 hockey I'd ever played, right? And so I go up into Jim's office, and he's like, "That's quite a game you had today, Louis." He's like, "Think you could do that again?" And I was like, "Score 4 goals?" He's like, "No, beat the crap out of those guys." I'm like, first thing out of my mind is, does it mean I'm going to make the team? And he's like, absolutely. I'm like, literally, you point them out, I'll take them out. And that story is kind of funny and unique in its own setting. But, you know, in my later years in life, I've had to kind of peel back some of the layers of that onion on why did I say yes? Why was I so willing to take that role on it? You know, I think I went through such a dark time in my adolescence where I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I finally found a role, and I've never been in a street fight or bar fight ever in my life. Like, it's just not me.
And that's funny because a lot of guys that did that role were the quietest guy on the street, right? Like you sit down and then you something happened, right? Put the skates on, you get there, and like, oh shit, who is this guy?
and it's like I finally had a role in life where not only did they like me, but they respected me.
Yeah.
And so I really grew that off of that. I really loved that role. I did not like fighting, but I happened to be pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And I mopped up most of that league that year. Towards the end of the year, they were holding on to my right arm, so I went home that summer, grabbed a tensor bandage around a heavy bag, and punched with my left until I couldn't feel my arm every single day. Went back. Now if you ask people in the hockey world after it's all said and done, they'll tell you that I'm a lefty, but I'm not. I learned how to throw left hands that summer as an 18-year-old. And then I was kind of playing actually some good hockey down there, and I was kind of getting scouted, but I didn't have my high school education. I dropped out of high school. So at that point in time, I knew that the Western Hockey League, if I was going to do this, had to go. Called the Regina Pats. They gave me a 2-game tryout, sent me back. And then the following summer, I went and talked to Al Tour in Moose Jaw with the Warriors and said, "Hey, listen, like, I'll go back and play in the SJ, but I think that, you know, I need an opportunity at this level to see how I can tangle with these guys." And he's like, "Yeah, sure," and made a bunch of promises. And I quit hockey almost at the end of that training camp. I got cut again, no inter-squad game, no nothing. Did everything that I was supposed to do, beat up the guys that were on the team. I was a 19-year-old rookie in the Western Hockey League. The head scout's like, we can't have 19-year-old rookies. So then I got cut and I went missing for 3 days on a little 3-day bender in the jaw. My dad couldn't find me. He was so not happy.
Right.
And then he, after that, he's like, "What are you going to do?" And my dad sold real estate since 1982. He's like, I'm like, "Well, I thought I'd just come sell real estate with you." He's like, "I didn't know I was hiring." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm your son. You have to hire me, you know?" But he talked me into it. My dad was the best hockey dad ever. He never got in the way. Obviously, he didn't do anything to get me on any upper echelon teams. Yeah. 3 things that he told me to focus on, and that's be a great teammate, be coachable, and outwork the person across from you. And those are really, in life, in hockey, whatever we're doing, we don't have a whole lot more in our control in those 3 things. Yeah. And so he's like, "Go back to Minot, play hockey for a month. If you still hate it after 30 days, come back and I'll bring you in."
Yeah.
He's like, "Do me a favor. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for me." So I went down and I was back in Moose Jaw in 30 days. but it wasn't to sell real estate. I'd run to the SJHL and I had 10 goals and 7 assists in 7 games, and the Warriors were like, we might have made a mistake here.
We need a 19-year-old rookie.
We need a 19-year-old rookie. That's tough because they were getting their butts kicked back home too, and so they're like, all right, let's do this. And so I got called up, and at the end of that season, I got drafted by the St. Louis Blues in the 7th round, the day after my 20th birthday. So no, not only did he take me everywhere and drive everywhere, that moment when I was ready to quit, he was there to say, "Well, I don't think you're done yet, kid." Yeah. So. Great.
Those 3 things are so true to anything, right?
And I teach it in all I knew today.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Like what transition, go in the pros, spend some time in the minors, but I want to emphasize the part of being a good teammate. It's like you. It's something I value at a high level. I try to show up that way every day. So what did that look like for you at that time of your life with what you were chasing to be a good teammate? Because I have an unfair advantage. Like I know like the journey and the feeling and what comes with it. So, but I think a lot of times people forget, like misunderstand what a teammate is, right? Oftentimes the way I perceive it or I feel it, it's like, well, like it's really cool if I win too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's actually like, hey, no, you got this, And so what did that look like when you turned pro and start playing with guys that are significantly older and have a lot more experience?
Yeah, there was challenges because I came with a little bit of a loud mouth too. I know that's hard to believe. So I was confident in my skills as an enforcer, and so there were some guys that tried to knock me down a level, and for the most part, it worked. And just got me back into, hey, listen, like the we is what's more important. Bobby Plager and Chaser and all the guys that said it, you play for the name on the front, not the name on the back. And having a true understanding to that is what's going to make a success. Like there's probably nothing more important in anything than being a great teammate to each other and treating each other the way that you want to be treated, and all the cliches and slogans that kind of come along with that. It's all out there, but are you truly willing to sacrifice something so that somebody else can have it? And for me, I did it in the most ridiculous form ever, because I went out on the ice when something happened to my teammates, or we needed a spark, or we were just trying to jostle for who the toughest guys in the league were. At the beginning of the year, like you see fights for no reason. It's just like, well, we're going to find out who is and who isn't this year, and who's the sheriff, and who's the guys to look for, and who's the guys to intimidate. And just my first year in St. Louis, I was a healthy scratch for the first 4 games, and we were 1-2-1 on the road. We took an LA swing, and we came back, and I got the lineup, and I fought every night. Like I was going out on the ice, and I was hunting just to get that pressure away from me, so that I could just prove to these guys that I would do anything to be here, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't
just checking, because I want to emphasize that you were going out on the ice doing anything you can to get into a fight, to show everybody you belong here, not to elevate yourself and say, look at me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to stay here, and this is what it's going to take, this is what I'm going to do, kind of thing.
I was so scared to get sent to the minors that I got in a fight the first game against Matt Johnson, and then the next game, and the next game, and the next game, and I just kept doing it, and it was almost getting into like a little bit of a routine for me, and it made me feel like I had already accomplished everything that every other player had to do that night. I feel like that moment, I was good. Yeah. And if I did get another shift for the rest of the game, which I was fortunate, Joel gave me some decent ice time.
Yeah.
But I felt like my main reason to be out there was done. I'd shown the other teams, I've taken on your toughest guy. You want to go? They gave us 3 fights, boys. I'm not afraid to do it 2 or 3 times. So bring it on. Let's go. And I think that my teammates felt. They just felt the security inside of that. And Joe Quinville actually called me in after like the 6th or 7th game, and he's like, "You gonna fight every night?" I'm like, "If that's what it takes."
Yeah.
I don't anticipate it being that, but right now that's what's going on, and we're winning. So why would I break it up?
Right. That's awesome. But I think that emphasized the we thing, right? To be the teammate. Because anyone that has done it, and especially at your level, it's grueling and it hurts way more than people think. And it's great to see the cheering, but you sit in that box, it's lonely, and your hands, your face, everything kind of.
And I have to. The one other thing I think that's really important, and this is for what I would consider to be like the executive level people, like people that get to the highest level of whatever they're doing in their business, a boss, a CEO, a senior vice president, a vice president, like. it's almost more important for those folks to be great teammates and focus on the we than it is the ones that are coming up. And the reason why I bring this up is because I always like to talk about Al MacInnis in that stance. He was a consummate teammate. Bryce Salvador would always joke around with me because I'd like get around Al and I'd score. I'm like, see that? He's like, yeah, you really think you got around Al? Come on, let's get real here, you know? And that was it. And Al was there to help us in the summer. Al's just like the best hockey dude ever. He's my favorite teammate. He's without question like Steve Yzerman. I grew up loving him, but having the opportunity to play with Al MacInnis and learn from the person that Al was, and even though I probably didn't learn as good as I should have from Al, I might have had a longer career if I would have done a few things differently, but didn't matter what you did. You know, Al would give you the business if you needed the business, but he was always there to support and love his teammates. And to this day, there's not a guy that I could shout from the mountains high enough about being the teammate of all teammates. And so I just try to be a little bit like that.
I think that's such a big observation, because a lot of time, to use your word, when people get into executive roles or levels, that you see a lot of leadership that is like positionally driven, right? And I would argue like a guy of his, with his tenure and his pedigree and Stanley Cups and Olympics and all this stuff, had every reason to not talk to you.
Yeah,
I mean, he would have had an argument not to. And I think you're right. This is what creates an organization, what it is when a guy like that actually makes you part of it and makes you feel like, hey, you belong to something that's bigger than all of us here. And this is why we all play for the name in the front, the name in the back.
Right? And I knew it even more because I had teammates that weren't like that were selfish and that were out there for themselves. And I'm not going to say enjoyed the limelight, because who doesn't like a little spotlight here and there? I think we're all human. That's a natural thing. But, to trip somebody in line so that you can get in front of them, or to be at a level where you're a superstar and you treat somebody that's not lesser, especially when he's getting in fights for you every single night.
Right.
Like, really? That's how it is? So, but I've learned today, and I think I was fairly like this back in the day. There might have been a time or two that I got a little pissed off. But I don't, that's not my job to tell them, or to, even today, hey, if we have a conversation, I'm going to let you know how I feel, but I'm not going to solicit information to you that's unnecessary. You just might not see me as much.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. So, I know the schedule is crazy. So talk to me about, so this is something sometimes I struggle with in business, right? Any organization, every field will have conferences and training and ways for people to kind of buy into, to enhance their own skills and things like that. And you mentioned your dad said be coachable, right? Be a good teammate, be coachable. And a lot of times in business, I find people that say they're coachable, and I always say that they're coachable until they actually get coached.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it feels a lot different, right? So as considering the role you had, tell me about being, what does that mean to you, right? Because I always also believe you have to accept the role, right? It doesn't matter if you're at the top of the food chain, or I always say, if you're at the table, at least you're not on the menu, right? So accepting your role, practice, all this stuff, what did that look like for you, and how much of your commitment to that part that's kind of, stuff that nobody sees, how much of that played a role in the longevity of you playing NHL?
I think, the biggest thing is the research and the student of the game that I had to become, because I didn't just have a level of skill set that I could go out there and make up for the deficiencies that weren't there. And, typically in the NHL, the tough guys on the fourth line, if the ref needs to call an extra penalty, the chances are, if I do the slightest little thing, he's going to call me more than he's going to call Pronger or MacInnis, right? Sure. And so just really being, listening to the voices around me on how to make sure that I was the best defensively that I could possibly be, because that was probably almost as important as me fulfilling my tough guy role, was to make sure that I wasn't a liability on the ice.
Right.
So I worked a lot with my kitchen after practice, before practice, just try to conditioning was still is always been a challenge for me. Like I tell people all the time, I drive by McDonald's and put on a couple pounds. I don't even need to stop just looking at it, and so I think that, and then again, I think coachability, again, I'll say it no different than being a great teammate from the highest level. If you're not willing, if you're the boss, if you're not willing to listen to somebody that is even new, or maybe has a couple of years, or came from a different place, doesn't mean you have to take it and incorporate it in your business, but giving them the feeling like their opinion actually matters. I might not take it, but understanding that, and that's a form of leadership that I think gets lost a little bit in our world of right and wrong today. You're wrong, no, I'm right. Like it's pathetic. It's a joke out there. It's like hate book and social hate or hatred is all it is. And so for me, I think understanding that, again, coming back to the we're not going to win at Stanley Cup unless all of us are on. That's why 23 names get on it, not just one.
That's right.
And I think that it's important to understand that being coachable is all levels of where you're at. And then just making sure that last name is doing everything it can to bolster that front name. You be a part of something, find your niche. Leaders and there's still a leadership responsibility for those guys to make sure that everybody's pulling on it, right? I don't know if you watched the game last night, but Vegas looks unreal. They fired their coach a week and a half before the end of the season and brought Trotz, and then it's like they're a different hockey team. What did he do?
I watched part of it last night, but I was really getting some rest for tonight.
You were?
Nobody's gonna.
No one's playing guilty tonight.
That's right. You're right, Montreal's gonna pull the job. So, all right. So, like practice and all this. So just for conceptually, right? So, what does a schedule look like for a guy like you playing there for the Blues? Like, do you practice like a couple times a week, and you just travel in these
every day? We practice every single day, especially at the beginning of the season. I would say practices are probably an hour and 15 minutes. Then I've got the extra duty after for the goaltenders, which I didn't have to be asked to stay out on the ice. I was the first one off, the last one off. Like that 2.5 hours a day that I got to spend on the ice in the NHL, like I was so blessed and so lucky. I tell people all the time, like, I feel like I kind of won the lottery a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I almost didn't belong there. And so I think that I really tried to make the most of that, even though I probably should have spent a few more hours in the gym after I was done, and maybe a few less hours in the bar. But I think at the end of the day, it was a daily thing. Some of the guys would get an optional pregame skate. Towards the latter part of the season, Prongs wouldn't practice. He would just have pregame skate. He's playing 33 minutes a night. He doesn't need to really practice at this point in time. He needs to rest the body. But he's not just in there eating bonbons. He's doing the physical activities. He's with the therapist. He's watching the tapes. He's getting his treatment to make sure that his body's in peak form. And so I think everybody was a little bit different in that. There were some guys like, Kelly Buckbergs of the world and the MacInnis of the world that were captains on teams, and they never took an optional skate just because when they were young, it wasn't allowed. And so they just adopted that mindset of how it was. And they wanted the young kids to know, like, I'm 34 years old, I'm the captain of this team, and I'm out doing pregame skate. What are you doing? Right. It's your second year. Yeah, you're second on the team in scoring, but that doesn't mean you can't get better, right? And I think that's a little bit more of an old school mentality than we see today. But travel at the NHL level is ridiculous. You fly private planes and stay in 5-star hotels. And I always tell people, other than the paycheck every other week, pregame meals on the road were literally the greatest thing that I ever was a part of. And so it was fun. It was hectic. It was a lot. By the time season got over, we were tired and beat up and broken.
So what would you say, right? Because I've used this as an example before in conversations where, to an extent, a professional locker room such as the Blues has 25 independent contractors. Right, you got guys making $500,000, and you got guys making $5 million. They have very different world that they live in, right? But yeah, when you go on the road and you get to those great pregame meals and all this stuff, somehow like everybody's sitting down together and everybody's right. So besides leadership, or I guess including leadership, like is it just the teammates? Is it just the logo that bring people together? Is it a mindset? Like how? Because those are large discrepancies on a 2-week basis when people get their check. And I'm not making this about the money, no, but I'm making this. There's different classes essentially in the locker room, right?
Yeah.
So how do you come together, like this, and have this level of camaraderie, this level of teammates, and all this stuff? Like what creates that? How do you guys achieve that?
I think the biggest thing is that everybody understands by the time you get to the NHL, you understand your role, you understand where you fit, and there's a training almost that comes in with some of that minor leagues and some of the hierarchy of veterans and stuff like that. The money's just a part of it, and the money all will and always will go to people that produce. And so, Keith Kachuk. Funny story, I was walking through, and this is back when we actually had checks, and they'd give you like a check.
An envelope?
Yeah, and Big Waltz is for like $400-some thousand every 2 weeks after tax. I think mine was 40. It was no slouch at all.
Sure.
I'm like, Walt, just sign the back of checks.
Yeah.
You give me yours, I'll take mine. You're still getting something. You're not going to miss this.
I'll protect it.
I'll protect it. I'll get a few extra ones in for you. What do you say? He's like, Lucy, do you want to make more money? I said, absolutely. He says, play better. That's pretty much it. You want to make more money? Play better, right? And if you can't, shut the hell up and appreciate what you got. Have a little gratitude and be a part of the team, because there's 600 guys in the minors that are willing to take your job and do it if you don't.
Yeah. What a great comeback. That's awesome.
I can totally see it. He used to just make me down.
Just play better.
He's like, play better, Osi.
It's not that hard.
I'm like, I'd like to see you play as good as I do with 6 shifts a game, buddy. But in turnaround, if I had to play 22 shifts a game, I probably wouldn't have made it, because that's a special conditioning in its own. And one night, we only had like 10, 12 guys on the bench. Everybody was sick. We were in New Jersey, and for some reason, I was the only one that wasn't sick. I played like 16 and a half minutes that night. Yeah. Joel looked at me after, he's like, how's 16 and a half minutes treat me? I was like, man, I feel like I'm sick now, But just to give an understanding that, from my level up, we always wanted more. I always wanted more ice time. How do I get more ice time? How do I get more ice time, right? And the fact of the matter is there's only so much to go around for each of those hierarchy guys that are going around. So you just understand it and you accept it. And like I said, if you don't, you were gonna, right?
Yeah.
Losey's not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Ross, you're in.
Yeah. So talk about this for a second, Nick, because I feel like this kind of reflects some of that, right? Like sometimes you hear great leaders at some point were probably great followers of other leaders, and then there's people that get triggered by the word follower. I don't quite get that, but whatever.
I've been one.
Well, if you're not, I think you're
a liar. If you don't admit being a follower, you're a liar.
And you're lost. Like, where the hell are you going?
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm a huge believer in it, but whatever. So think, because you like, I heard this. Like, I heard performance matters, right? I've heard being a teammate matters. Now, how do you show up as a follower within the organization, right? Like, because some people are like, well, I'm not a follower. Like, okay, well, this is where we're going. Do you want to go or not, right? So how does that show up in an AHL locker room, and how did you live that?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the team that you're playing on. In my case, they drafted me, so I didn't have a whole lot of choice, and they liked me because I played 9 of my 10 years in the organization. And so I think that it just comes down to, like, you get drafted, you're so ecstatic, you get to the NHL training camp, and I think that's why it's so valuable for these kids, as younger kids that are still going back to junior, to go to training camp and see what it's like. Yeah. Because not only is there like, that's Brett Hull and Al MacInnis and Grant Fuhrer, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, where am I really at? So
it's my mom.
Yeah. My mom. I didn't want her when I was trying out in junior. Now I need her. And so I think you just come in with that from a young guy like I was. That you're just ecstatic to be there. Like, I just want to be here. Where do you need me? What do you need me to do? Yeah. Right? Like, and just make sure. The thing I really had to worry about was making sure I was on time. I think when you look at it from a different standpoint, maybe like a guy gets signed free agent somewhere and gets paid a lot of money. Now he's got to come in and toe that line per se, or follow the leadership. I think that's where the management and the coaches and everybody that are sitting there before July 1st are sitting here saying, okay, well, let's talk to this guy. We're going to talk to this guy, talk to this guy, but we've got our eye on this guy. NHL, especially in those scenarios, everybody kind of knows who you are. Sure. Word gets out on you pretty quickly, good, bad, and ugly. And so I think that, it's the job of the general managers and then the coaches and the general managers making sure that they have an understanding and they've eliminated any of that guessing group, or one saying, no, I want to do this, and the other one saying no. And now it's like, well, you're on the line for this type of stuff. Like, if those guys aren't together, it's really hard for everybody underneath you to be together. And I think that's probably, where you see success.
So you're saying like chemistry has to start at the top.
Yeah.
There's got to be a strong chemistry that's got to be felt and seen at the top.
Yes, and it's even more important for the players, for the coaches behind the bench, because majority of those coaches are players.
Yeah.
So they've already been where we're at.
Yeah.
Right. And they also can't hide.
Yeah.
You can't hide in the game of hockey. Like, we do everything together.
Yeah.
You can't hide who you are. All you can do is take a real hard, honest look at it and try and make yourself better.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you're making yourself better for the role that's been designated to you on the team, then that should be the part that 23 to 25 guys all bring that together. That gets you a strong list. And sometimes there's guys out there that are a little bit more selfish and do things in other ways and take other avenues and won't conform to the we that is the game of hockey and professional sports. Because there's some sports that are a little bit more individual, independent, like baseball. If a pitcher goes out there and pitches, it doesn't matter how good the center fielder is.
Yeah.
Right. Hockey's the most team game, I think, probably of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
There is individual guys that are really, really good, but I think when you take a look at how the teams that are in the playoffs right now are there, they're all good, great goaltending, they are solid team defense, and they have great transition games. And you have to work on that stuff together. And if you don't, and you don't have a guy coming back and pulling his weight on backside pressure and back checking, it's no different than the Canadians losing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
McCarr was dogging it up the ice on 3-on-3.
Yeah.
Like, he should never have been able to get that shot away. And McKinnon hesitated on the same thing.
Yeah.
So a breakdown because you don't get your job done right, or you stayed out there too long, or made a mistake, doesn't mean you're a terrible teammate. No, it just means that you really have to be dialed in to playing the system that's been put in place for everybody. And hopefully you've got a management, a coaching staff, and a set of captains and veteran players that are going to lead that to the young guys.
So you said a dirty word, your system. So how, as much chaos as it looked for the average fans from the stands, how systematic is an actual game on any given day?
Vary.
Yeah.
The real true winner of a systematic game is whoever breaks down the least.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, and people ask me all the time, what's the biggest difference between the American Hockey League and the NHL? And I've got about the same games in either, I think 250 some in the NHL and like 3 something in the American League. And the number one difference is the ability to get into a system and understand it and have some hockey IQ. The execution of the system and what your role is, and making sure that you don't break your role to go help somebody else's. When I'm the weak side winger and that puck goes side to side, do not go down and throw it out to that defenseman that you're supposed to be on, right? Like, have some commitment to what and putting your place.
Buy into the system, accept your role in the system.
And then implement it. And if everybody does that along, they should be fine. But the number one difference is passing.
That's so different.
Passing is helping your teammates out. And they always say you can't give a good player a bad pass, right? And so passing in the National Hockey League is really what separates it from any other hockey in the world.
Yeah. I just say it's funny. Like, we're in the middle of revamping a lot of systems. I always thought we need to nail the systems. And once we believe this is the right one, then it's just a matter of us implementing it.
Yep.
And if the system is proven to be the right one and it's not happening, then you have a people issue.
Yep.
It's not the system, right? So
a lot of time with the people issue comes, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Well, whose fault is it? It's somebody's, right? So let's get out of the victimhood and let's get into what do we got here?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Because there's no sense in not being honest about it, because you're just going to keep losing.
Yeah. You want to make more money?
Yeah.
Play better.
Play better.
So, all right. So let's just kind of wrap this up. I want to know, like, so how much of all of this knowledge and experience and learning you acquired through hockey gets translated into your day-to-day life and business after your hockey?
I would say it's everything, especially with where I'm at today and what I'm doing today. I think that there's a special flavor in some of the instances with all the hockey fans when I'm at these events. When they're looking at hiring their auctioneer, like maybe get a little lean in.
Yeah.
I never am Reed Lowe, the hockey player. Like, if I walked into a room and not one person knew what I did, they'd just think I was not a charity auctioneer, right? And I'll talk hockey all day long with you, but man, when I die, there better be something more to my life than 4 years in the NHL. You know what I mean? Like, I got more to me than that, more substance.
Yeah.
But I take those lessons that I learned, and even the ones that I learned getting out. I've got a business that I got into with Ritchie Brothers right out of the gate when I got out of hockey as real estate for a hot second, and then found a little life at Ritchie Brothers. And I'm kind of getting into another mold with another business, and I'm going to do some consulting for, and I'm taking a lot of what I did back then to make sure that this is as successful as that was. And I think, again, like, it all comes back to the three things that I was taught as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
And just like no, take no for an answer type of attitude.
Yeah.
And
Like an hour you.
Yeah.
You'll be the best teammate.
Yep.
Right.
And I got and that's a daily challenge, because a lot of the charity stuff that I've been doing, I was on an island. I've built myself a little team now, which is a lot better for me, because I found myself working in a space that I'd never been successful in before. And here I was trying to do this. I need people to help me, whether it's an auction coordinator or an assistant or a coach or whatever those things are. I have to be better in my mindset to make sure that I'm out there doing the best things that I can for my enterprise.
Yeah. So how would you say you show up to them as a leader? Like, are we trying to emulate MacInnis? Like, how do you try to show up as a leader for them?
Yeah. So I don't really have name tags on who's the boss. Like, I think that natural born leaders are pushed into position. They're not elected into a position. Everybody wants them there. That's why our political game is an absolute joke, because nobody wants any of them, and everybody wants limited to everything else under the sun. And so our leader of the United States is not a representation of the entire country. You know, Al MacInnis even though Pronger was our captain, everybody knew that Al was the man.
Yeah.
And Al didn't need to have a C on his jersey. He's like, give it to Pronger.
Yeah.
Everybody hates him. He's just had a great season. Holly's gone. This is the next chapter for him. I'm fine doing what I'm doing, right? And that is the type of leadership that I think is important. So I just try and do that. I'm a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I have people that don't mind working with a pain in the butt, because I'll always get it right before I try and be right.
Yeah.
And that's just a philosophy that I've walked with my whole life.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to not just talk it, you got to live it. Yeah. But I got, like I said, I have two gals that are working with me right now, just help me hold the walls together. It's getting busier and busier and busier. And then I have another couple other gals that help me and coach me in some other different ways to make sure that I'm staying on task, because it's not easy living up here.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is running 150 miles an hour. It's got a small bit of probably some post-concussion syndrome in there. You know, making too many beers on the day, you know. But more than anything, if we're going to do it, we got to have fun.
Yeah.
And if there's a moment where we're not having fun, then we need to relook at it and find out how to have fun again.
Yeah. I mean, why do it otherwise?
And sit.
Well, I love you too. That was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's good.